fellow nostalgia fans, and welcome to Retro TV Radio. I'm your host, Pat McCormack. Geri Jewell is a gem. Although that pun was absolutely intended, it is also the absolute truth. This also happens to coincide well with the title of her new coffee table book, Geri's Jewels and Gems, which is now available. Today, Geri joins us to discuss her fascinating career and her personal challenge to rise above her physical disability to reach stardom on both the stage as a stand-up comedian and the screen as a highly acclaimed actress. Discovered by Norman Lear and personally inspired by Carol Burnett, her legacy is cemented in Hollywood, having played Cousin Geri on the NBC series The Facts of Life. She also appeared in shows like The Great Space Coaster, Sesame Street, 21 Jump Street, and The Young and the Restless, just to name a few. Geri also received Emmy consideration for her powerful role on the acclaimed HBO series Deadwood. As a highly sought-after activist and motivational speaker with some extremely impressive credits in that department, I think after hearing this interview, you will completely understand why. It all makes perfect sense to me, as I've had a contact high from talking with her ever since we hung up the phone. I would bet that after hearing my chat with this wonderful woman, it's likely that you will too. Enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podcast the iconic Geri Jewell. Hello, Geri.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm doing good.
That's good. You know, since it's been in the news a lot, first thing I got to ask is that simple question. How's the weather?
Oh, God, it's hot.
That's the going answer with just about everybody right about now.
Yep.
Now, you're in Southern California, of course.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
So it kind of goes with the territory, unless you're not on the coast.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep, you're right.
I'm in one of those places in California where I have to boast that it's a hot day when it hits 70 degrees here.
Now, where are you?
I am on the Central Coast, Santa Cruz specifically.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
You know, I can't complain. Matter of fact, I probably am just sounding like I'm totally gloating, but...
Yeah, you do.
What a great way to start an interview. Listen, it's your turn. It's your time to gloat, Geri, and listen. I gotta say, I've been a fan for decades. It's, you know, for me, at my age now, I'm 60, and I say decades. Wow.
Yeah, I know. Where does time go?
You know, your career has been almost or past 4 decades already. And, oh my God, what a list of credits. But you know what?
Did you get the new book?
You know, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say. But let's talk about what's happening right now, which is Geri's Jewels and Gems.
Yes, my new book.
Great title.
Thank you. Well, my friend wanted to call it Geri's Jewel, but I said, no, that sounds like a book on sex. And he said, well, that's the point, and it'll sell. And no, I'll do it only if I can add gems to it.
Well, I'd buy it. I mean, that's not really what I was expecting, but sure.
All right. Am I ever giving you what you expect?
No. And that's what I love so much about you, is you are so versatile. But this book that we are talking about, it's brand new, and tell us a little more about it.
It's a collection of columns that I wrote for Ability Magazine for over 6 years. And just a real fun book, and pictures just personal photos that I chose to put in the book. And during COVID, I thought, what can I do to help this world? And I was looking over some of my articles in Ability, and I thought, oh my God, all that is even relevant today.
Sure.
And people need to be inspired. They need to laugh. They need to move forward. They need to have courage. And I thought, what a perfect time. So I called Ability and asked if I could do a coffee table book with my work. And they gave me permission as long as I gave Ability credit. So I got a real nice deal here.
Oh, that's wonderful. And what a great way to capitalize. I know a lot of people, creative folks just like yourself, said, oh, COVID, great. Writer's strike, actors strike. What am I going to do?
Oh, I know. It's just, you just got to keep putting one foot forward and you can't give up. And it's hard. You wake up, you turn on the news, okay, what happened now?
Right. Give me some drama, please. I need some heavy drama. Oh, boy. Well, again, that's the thing that I admire about you so much, is that you've taken, what some people wouldn't be able to cope with, and turned it into a virtue, which just sends out this positive message to, everyone out there, including the folks you've worked with. But, what I noticed here is there's an interesting name that did the foreword for this book.
Norman Lear did the foreword.
Is that who it was? Of course.
Remember Norman?
I'm pulling your leg. I know. Forward by Big Bird. No, we'll get to that later. We'll talk about that later, Geri.
Well, we would have got a different forward.
But how wonderful is that to have Norman, of course, who just passed away not long ago.
I know. And interestingly, he wrote that forward at 101.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And I called him and asked him if he could look at my book. He said, sure, come on over, bring it over to the house. And I went over there and I said, Norman, I know you have a lot on your plate. You're very busy. But could you please write the foreword for my book? And it's a coffee table book. And he said, well, what if you don't have a coffee table?
True to form.
I said, well, I'm sure you can find somewhere to put it.
I bet. He's like, Geri, I've got a 101 degree temperature here. What do you expect me to do? At 101. No. That is just
101, and it was such a sweet forward.
Yeah. Astonishing.
And that was the last time I saw Norman, and it was an amazing day because I took the publisher of my book, Randy Bell, Dr. Randall Bell. I took him there to meet Norman, and we walked in his living room, and Dustin Hoffman was there. So we spent a couple hours with Norman and Dustin, and it was such an amazing afternoon. And he agreed to write the foreword for my book. It was his last gift to me.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Dustin Hoffman, I don't know how that got thrown in there, but
oh, what a wonderful man.
Yeah, I love his work for sure. And Norman is no slouch either, I suppose, and neither is Geri Jewell, for that matter.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, 3 non-slouches in 101 degree temperature. No, I think it's poetic, that You really do. You credit him with discovering you.
Yeah, well, he did, basically. I heard about me, and she hired me to do stand-up comedy for the second annual Media Awards in I'm going to say
70-something? 80?
No, 79. I think it was late 79. That's exactly when it was. And I performed that night, and Charlotte Lay was in my audience that night also.
Wow. You had a Mrs. Garrett gallery? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I know. And Norman came up to me after the show, and he said, you're real funny, kid, but you're way before your time. I said, so wait a couple months.
I love it.
And 2 months later, he cast me on Back Right.
That's fantastic. That's wonderful. I'd been in showbiz for a little bit myself as a musician, and I got asked by a prominent musician one time, how long have you been playing? And my response, Jerry, was, what time is it? It wasn't the good one. His line was, oh, comedian, huh? Yeah. No. Yeah. Whereas in your case, yes. As a matter of fact. And let's add another word to that. Trailblazer. What do you think of that?
I've been called a trailblazer.
I would call you a trailblazer.
It fits. I was on a Western called Deadwood.
Well, yes. Of course, we'll touch on that, too. But the beauty of it is, you have this book available, and it's memories. It fits on the coffee table, even if you don't have a coffee table. According to Norman, you really don't need one. But... Well,
my first autobiography that came out in 1984, and nobody should write an autobiography at age 45 because they haven't lived yet.
Right.
And I used one of those books to, I had a kitchen table, one of the legs was not touching the ground, so I used it to even out my kitchen table. It was really convenient.
That's perfect. Like I used to use my new CDs as coasters. They work perfect for that.
Exactly.
It's like if you don't like the music, just use it as a coaster. It's what dual purpose. Oh my gosh. Speaking of dual purpose, what do you think of that tie-in there, Jerry? You really are. You're an actress, comedian. How would you describe yourself? I mean, here's what I mean. I'm a musician who sings. I'm not a singer who is a musician. Are you an actress who is a comedian as well, or are you a comic first? What would you say?
I would probably say I'm an actress first. That's an interesting question. I'm an actress first, I think.
I would agree with that. Even though you're really funny, too. I've seen your shows. And you've got that riff where you...
Thank you.
Well, then that's the thing. I mean, you took adversity, by the throat and said, I'm going to make you funny, damn it.
Well, truthfully, I was in my third year of college in 1978, and I was flunking anatomy and physiology and algebra for the second time, and I was really bummed out, and I was in the disabled services department, and my friend Alex Valdez, who was blind, said, hey, why are you so bummed out? And I said, well, because I'm flunking these classes, and I really don't want to be here. He said, well, what do you want to be? Well, I want to be an actress. I want to be a comedian like Carol Burnett. And he said, well, why don't you do what I do? I said, what do you do? I go to the comedy store every week and tell blind jokes. And I said, well, Alex, that may work for you, but I see it perfectly fine. And he said, no, dinky face. And he always used to call me dinky face. And he never saw my face, but he knew it was a dinky face. Dinky face, you're going to go and tell cerebral palsy jokes. So I blame him and credit him for getting me into this. So I never thought about being a stand-up comic. I thought about being a comedic actress.
Right, like Carol.
Yeah, but that door was open to me, and so I took it.
Ugh, and what a great inspiration, I might add. Jeez. I mean, I saw that you would write her letters.
Yes. Yeah, I started writing her when I was about 12, and, told her that when I grew up, I wanted to be just like her because she got people to laugh with her, not at her, and it was a healing, loving laughter, and that's what I want to do. And she wrote me back, and she said never to quit, get into acting in every capacity. She told me that there was no guarantee that I would become professional. The important thing is to put out the effort and to try, because no one knows what they can do unless they try. And that was really powerful coming from Carol Burnett.
I'll bet. I mean, talk about somebody, a valuable national treasure who's still with us, thankfully. I mean...
Yeah, she is. She is. She's amazing.
Exactly. That says it all. And obviously she saw that in you, too. And thank you, Carol, for inspiring Geri, because who knows? If she hadn't, do you think you still would have pressed on, or was that a big boost for you?
You know what's interesting? In 96, she did a play in Long Beach, and I went to see it. And I went backstage to say hello to her, and I said, Carol, I just want to say to you that, I wouldn't have had a career without you. I mean, you motivated me. You helped me through this. And she said, she had tears in her eyes, and she held my hand, and she said, Geri, give credit where credit is due. You did this. I didn't. And you would have done it whether I was here or not, because you got what it takes.
Yeah. Well, I would agree. I would agree with her. Of course, that's her reputation, as selfless and humble as can be, So what else would you expect, right? But at the same time, she's right. You would have done it no matter what. But not a bad mentor there, Geri.
Well, I don't, I think I've always known. When I was in 1969, I was 2. No, I'm kidding.
That makes you younger than me. Wait a minute. Okay.
I didn't want to age right now.
It's quite all right. I'm right there with you.
In 1969, a group of kids from my special ed school, Woodcrest, had a summer field trip to go to Universal Studios. And of course I wanted to go. And my brother Fred went with me to help push the wheelchairs. And I told him when we were going out to the car, I said, Fred, you know what? Someday I'm going to have a parking space in this studio at Universal. And when Facts of Life came along, that's where my parking space was.
Wow. I love it. I mean, those are the kind of stories where you hear about Steven Spielberg breaking in and setting up his own office without even being allowed on the grounds.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Geri had her own parking place well before she actually went to work there. But that's it, isn't it? I mean, it's having that tangible, you can taste it, looking at it as, this is going to happen for me, that kind of confidence.
I mean, I had that knowing even as a little kid.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have cerebral palsy, and I was just a normal kid. Well, I would never be normal, but
Normal? What's normal?
I know there's no such thing as normal.
There isn't.
But let's just put it this way. If I hadn't been born myself of poverty, I probably would have been a professional tennis player.
Uh-huh. Or a roller skater. I've got this in my notes. But we're not going there yet. We're not going there yet.
Okay.
But, again, it's like you said, it's almost like divine. It's almost a divine intervention. God says, okay, I'm going to give you this set of challenges like it doesn't get to everybody. But yours was definitely substantial. And yet you rose through, you even got your own parking place. I'm telling you, Geri, it's pretty amazing.
Well, what we all have to do is get out of our own way. And that's what I discovered in my years, my golden years.
We're there.
You're on way, Jerry.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. And again, not to say that Hollywood, aside from Carol Burnett and Norman Lear, is the most compassionate town to work in, to put it mildly. That you had to overcome the fact that, people really were. I don't know. I wasn't raised that way. I can't imagine anybody being rude or mean to somebody. Like, how could you do that? And yet Hollywood is so freaking jaded. You're not going to be surprised by anything that happens there. And I'm curious, though, Geri, at the time when you were coming up, compared to now, do you think that it's become more tolerant, less tolerant? I mean, obviously, probably more, but...
We've come a long way. I mean, you see a lot more people with disabilities in the industry than when I started. But we still have a long way to go. I mean, it's still like, I'll give you an example. Like, I could be a teacher, I could be a mother, I could be a wife, I could work in a factory, I could be a brain surgeon. Okay, that's pushing it. But but the point I'm trying to make here is that people with disabilities have got to be considered for all roles, and then it evens the playing field.
Right. Right.
And I don't think that was ever the case with me. So I had to take shortcuts. I had to run into Norman Lear and David Mills later on,
Yeah. Now that's, like I said, it's fate. But again, I mean, it's like you have that's already built in, probably not so much with the actual colleagues. I was thinking about it. I think you were told a story. We'll talk about that in a second. But, how would it be to be an actor, a sensitive actor like most of them are, and in the script, you have to make fun of somebody with cerebral palsy that actually does have it. And what does that take? I mean, what does that do?
Are you talking about Deadwood?
Well, it's funny you should bring that up. Because I saw a little story that you were talking about with Ian McShane.
Yeah.
And how he had to treat you in a very unbecoming way. I mean, that was part of the storyline, unfortunately. You had to be abused, for lack of a better word, or at least mentally or physically, too.
My truck in the mud is what you're speaking of.
Yes.
And that was an amazing scene in Deadwood where nobody was helping me up when I fell in the mud and people were staring at me. And I did this about 10 times and the director kept saying, oh, she has to do it again. So I had to fall on the mud a lot because I wasn't getting that much. And David Milch, who is the executive producer of the show, saw one of the actors over to him. This is after doing it about 6 times and not getting it right. And he said, listen, what I want you to do is go in front of Jerry and mimic cerebral palsy, make fun of her. He felt so weird about doing that, but he had to do what David told him to do. And my response was so shocked. I was like, oh my God. It brought back all the memories of kids that used to do that to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he was looking for, the shocked response. And the reason I didn't give it in the first place is because I think in order for me to succeed in life, I had to put blinders on my eyes a little bit and block a lot of it so that it wouldn't hurt me every step of the way. I didn't even see, and I'm hearing impaired, and I only heard half of the insult.
Oh.
So it was a blessing that kept me going of not fully knowing what was being done to me and behind my back.
Mm. Well, and I know that scene well. You were so stoic. The character was, very deadpan. This is what it is, man. This is what it is. But the co-actors are just like, oh God, that's so not me. I just can't imagine. And yet, because of your compassion, I think, they pulled through. Good for you, Jerry, getting them through those scenes. I don't know if I could do it. Oh my gosh.
That's all right. It was fun playing in the mud for a day.
Yeah. It's acting, right?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out where to put my hands for my Hollywood.
Leave your impression? Yes.
That's what it felt like. It wasn't real mud. It was authentic mud.
Fake mud. Oh my God. Only in Hollywood. Yeah. Wow. Well, it's actors being compassionate, people in general. I mean, sure, you've got some that are holier than thou and, I guess, for lack of a better term, stuck up. But...
Well, I'll tell you something. David Milch, the executive producer of Deadwood, I got that because one morning, what a lot of people don't know is I broke my neck in 1999. I lost my balance. Oh, are you kidding? Really? And I flipped over backwards and landed on my head, and I honestly thought my career was over. And in order to deal with chronic pain, even to this day, I get 3 vials of Botox injected in my neck and shoulders every 3 months for chronic pain. And at that time, the insurance companies made the patient go pick up the Botox at the pharmacy and deliver it to the doctor. They don't do that anymore because people were stealing the Botox.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah, and selling it for a lot more.
Yeah, popular. It's a very popular drug, yes.
Not that I did it, but...
Okay. I'm not trying to frame you or anything here, Jerry.
So this particular morning, I was in a lot of pain. I couldn't even button a button because my neck and my arms hurt so bad. And so I decided, the heck with it. I'm going to go in my pajamas and just wear a big coat. It's 8:30 in the morning. Nobody will recognize me. No big deal. I'm standing in line at the pharmacy, and this man turns around and goes, oh, my God, you're Geri Jewell. And,
Perfect.
I didn't even want to admit I was who I was because I looked like total shit. And I said, yeah, it's me. And he said, I'm a huge fan of yours. And I said, well, thank you. And I love your work. And I said, well, thank you, sir. He said, but I haven't seen you on TV in a long time. What are you doing with your life now? I said, Botox.
I'm selling it in the black market. Boy, what are you doing? Oh, my gosh.
And he said, no, really. And I said, really? Botox? He said, you want a television series?
Yeah.
I said, this is a pharmacy, isn't it?
Right.
It's not nice to play with someone lying in a pharmacy, sir. And he said, in case you don't recognize me, Jerry, my name is David Milch. And oh my God, my eyes got wide. And I said, the producer of NYPD Blues? He said, yep. And I said, well, Mr. Milch, I'm flattered that you like my work, but let's be real here. I would be a real shitty cop.
Especially since you're selling Botox in the black market.
Oh, good line.
How ironic.
And he said, no, I just signed a contract with HBO. I'm doing a new Western called Deadwood. You want to do a Western? And I looked up as far as my titanium neck would let me. And I said, God, you have a real quirky sense of humor. I mean, I'm standing here with cerebral palsy, depending on Botox, and David Milch wants me to ride a horse. Was this in the country?
Wow.
And he wrote his phone number on a prescription pad for an antidepressant, and it really wasn't antidepressant because he offered me a roll on deck.
It worked. No placebo effect here, folks. Holy smokes. That is the...
I mean, right when I thought my career was over, he was putting my path.
It is just... That is the ultimate Hollywood story right there. I just love it.
Oh, who was discovered in swamps? Wasn't Atlanta Turner?
Yeah, or Marilyn Monroe. I was just thinking... You're not the only one that's been discovered at a drugstore. But in your pajamas... I don't know about that. In line to buy your black market Botox. I mean...
Well, can you blame me?
That's incredible. That's incredible. You know, and of course, your credit at that point, you'd really made a mark with Facts of Life. You know, of course, we've got to mention that. As a matter of fact, my listeners will be like, Pat, you let this interview go by without mentioning the Facts of Life. There will be letters written.
Blair would be very, very upset by that.
Yes, she would. I loved the show. I loved what you did on the show. You know, the concept of it being, I call them dramedies. That's the going term.
Well, you know, Norman was right. I was way before my time because Hollywood didn't quite know what to do with me. I was the first person with a visible disability ever to be cast in a primetime series, and yet they didn't know where to take it because, for one reason, they couldn't get past the CP completely. You know, had they just let go of that and let me go and let me just, you know, be another character who happened to have CP. But it's interesting because, in a way, the child in me thought that if I became an actress, that CP wouldn't be an issue anymore. And it was more of an issue than it ever was before in trying to get employment.
What do they call it? A rock and a hard place, even though you're in a...
Yeah.
You're in a great position. You're on a primetime series. And yet, even then, it was somewhat unceremonious how they let you go, too.
Exactly. And this is why we have a lot more to do in this industry. But I'm a survivor, and I'm here. And I love playing Blair's cousin on that show. Lisa Wachtel played that role excellent. And I also did her show Collector's Call about a couple years ago.
I was going to mention that.
Yeah.
It's great to see her still out there doing it.
Yep. And we ran into each other again at Norman's service, and we'll be getting together soon. I give her so much credit. She's amazing.
Yeah.
She did a lot with her life, too.
Well, and based on my research, she was opposite of the spoiled brat that she played on the show.
Yes, she was. In fact, we were roommates for about a year, almost a year. And she was probably my best friend on Back to Life, because when I got back, I was 23 years old. And most of the girls were 14, 16, 15, and Lisa was 17. She was the oldest. But I was a very young 23-year-old. So I hit it off with Lisa. Lisa and I became very close friends.
Oh, that's great. And still are, which is awesome.
Yeah, it really is. When you look back on everything, life is amazing. And I have to take Norman Lear's advice, and that is wake up every morning with gratitude and just be amazed and love life. Don't focus on the negative.
Yeah.
Focus on the positive.
Well, there you've heard it. I mean,
I try to do that.
I'd say you've done it. And I mean, obviously, this new book of yours is full of wonderful things to get that inspiration from.
And, I'm having a book launch at Barnes & Noble at the Grove on August 7th, and I'm very excited about that.
We'll definitely put that up in the description here.
Yeah, and I think the link is also on my website, gerijewell.com. Because you have to click on the link or else they won't let you into your service spot.
Uh-huh. So, yeah, we need to get on that.
I don't have to get on the link, but you do.
We know you'll be there. It's set in stone. Geri will be there. Yes. And you'll be signing and talking about the book. And that's just what a wonderful opportunity to come meet a fabulous person.
Thank you.
Like I said, I've been a fan of yours forever. I admire you as a person and as an actress and as a comedian. I mean,
thank you.
Laughter's the best medicine, right?
It is, absolutely, without question.
So before we wrap this up, I want to touch on one thing really quick. What did you do to my favorite Sesame Street character, Big Bird?
Well, that was in 1984, and...
Wait a minute, people are like, what do you mean, what did she do? What are you talking about? I was just going to say it involved a pair of roller skates, folks.
Well, Sesame Street invited me on the show. They were very excited about it. They were really good about hiring people with disabilities on Sesame Street and introducing the difference to children.
Sure.
And they were very excited about having Cousin Geri on the show. And they said, can you do anything that's fun for kids? Because stand-up comedy for 4-year-olds is really not a good idea. And I said, well, I can roller skate. And the minute that left my lips, I thought, wow, not only do I have cerebral palsy, I have mental health issues.
She's going to prove it.
But once it left my lips, they grabbed it, and Carol Spinney, who was the puppeteer inside Big Bird, was really excited because he knew how to skate as Big Bird. He could put skates on Big Bird and skate. Oh my God, yes, skating with Geri Jewell. So they flew me to New York, and the night before we did a walkthrough dress rehearsal, only wardrobe forgot my skates. So I literally just walked to my marks with Big Bird. I thought, oh, this is a piece of cake. So the next day, they bought the skates in front of the studio audience of mothers and fathers and the 4-year-olds. And they opened the curtain. Okay, you know where your mark is. Go, Geri, go. And I went so fast. I thought, oh my God, I never did learn how to stop on these.
It would be helpful.
Yeah, I always use a wall or a tree or a car.
But not in this case.
And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? If I hit the camera, that could be very pricey.
Yeah.
If I hit the studio audience, that could be very messy.
Yeah.
So, it depended on where I shifted my weight. And I thought the safest thing to hit was Deadwood because he was so soft and big. But I hit him so hard that his head fell off. And it rolled across the stage, and these 4-year-olds were screaming that I killed him.
Oh, the humanity.
The crowd was still in therapy.
Every time I see a canary, I have a panic attack.
Well, he put his head back on.
Thankfully.
At least somebody put their head back on.
Meanwhile.
Well, Carol Spinney and I became friends after that. Shockingly, we became friends.
Well, of course.
And he said that I was the only celebrity guest that ever decapitated him.
Oh, I mean, just the visuals. You can imagine the whole thing perfectly. I mean, you don't even have to see it. You can see it.
Oh, I wish they had saved that footage, but it ended up on the cutting room floor.
Oh, well.
I know.
It does fine just describing it. Trust me, you can see it all, Jerry. You can see that big yellow head flying through the air.
I'm kind of glad they didn't save it because it would be on YouTube. And
You'd have PETA after you and all these organizations against the cruelty of animals. And
I know, really.
Oh, boy. Well, again, this has just been a great pleasure. I've been a huge fan. I knew you were going to be a total delight, and you certainly lived up to that, my friend.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
And so the book, Geri's Jewels and Gems, you can get it via your website, correct?
Yep. Yeah, because that's the only way you're going to get the tickets to the Grove.
You know, I'm sure it's going to sell tons of copies, and I hope you have a great success at that event.
Thank you.
May it be the first of many. And with that, I just want to say thanks again for joining us, Geri Jewell. You are, sorry, I just got to say it.
Don't call me a jewel.
You are a gem. Oh.
Thank you.
It's true. Stick around for just a second while I shut this thing off and we'll get to say goodbye properly, okay? Just a quick informational tag here, folks. We were just referring to Geri's upcoming appearance at the Grove Barnes & Noble in LA on August 7th at 7 p.m. There she'll be discussing her new book and signing autographs. There you have it, another Retro TV Radio in the books. Be sure to check out gerijewell.com to see about all her upcoming events and learn how to purchase her books, I'm Walking as Straight as I Can, and her newest Geri's Jewels and Gems. Also check out all the other goodies her website has to offer. And of course you'll find all the links to these in the episode's description. You can follow me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Golden Rage of TV and on X at Golden Rage of TV1. This is your host, Pat McCormack, and thanks again for listening to Retro TV Radio.